Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Negotiation. This episode is part 2 of our conversation with Arnault Castel, founder of Kapok, a retail experience that focuses on designers and brands whose work provides quality craftsmanship and creativity in design. In this, the back half of our conversation, Arnault discusses how Kapok works with brands in his store and talks about which brands are doing well by resonating with consumers in Asia. We also dive into whether or not it's important to have a brick-and-mortar presence in today's D2C environment. We also discuss some of the risks he's taken that have paid off, as well as the ones that haven't. We close out the conversation by looking to the future of commerce and retail in Asia. Enjoy.
Japan is not like the rest of the world. And sometimes it's very limiting because sometimes a good product is a good product. It's a universally good product, or a good idea is a good idea. So sometimes you need to trust that if this brand made this bag that is so strong, design, so nice, so good marketing, that is sold everywhere in the world, it will sell in Japan, also. So, and maybe it's a way for some people to feel they can, their job will be still valid because they need to, put their personal touch. So we need to localize, but sometimes a good idea is a good idea, and we need to also run with it in every country. We need to find the balance.
Home to over 4 billion people, the Asia-Pacific region boasts one of the most powerful consumer markets on the planet. Not only is it home to half of the world's under 30 population, but it's also home to more than half the world's internet users. It's a market that no globally minded organization should ignore. But entering markets like China, Japan, or Southeast Asia is no easy task. Just ask the likes of Microsoft, Google, Uber, and Facebook. However, times are changing, and with the right partners, doors are slowly opening as more and more companies find success growing their key markets in APAC. I myself spent 8 years in China, mostly as a venture capitalist, helping early-stage tech companies grow in the Asia-Pacific market successfully. This show is dedicated to uncovering and examining successful Asia market entry and growth strategies by interviewing the experts who've done it before and truly understand what it takes to be successful in the region. My name is Todd Embley, and welcome to The Negotiation, brought to you by WPIC Marketing and Technologies. I wanted to ask about tactics that you might lean on to help companies like the Michelin Guide or Moleskine be successful. But it caused me pause just for a second because I wanted to ask you how you work, because maybe you wouldn't be in charge and you wouldn't be dictating that aspect of their business for them just because they're through your store. So I want to start by asking, how do you work with the brands that are in your stores, and how do you promote your brand that has other brands? What are you allowed to do? What kind of capacity to take some creative control using them do you have versus having to actually just adopt or rely on their creative and what those brands are already doing?
Yeah, I think it's different. When I was distributor for Moleskine, for Michelin Guide, or Daniel Wellington, that's the kind of we have to follow, but sometimes we also have to localize. That's a very interesting comment. How much do you localize your marketing? How much do you change, and it's endless debates, I think, because some brands are very, very, and, when a brand is inside Kapok, we have to respect the brand, but they're also in our environment, So for instance, when we do, we have our Instagram account, do we use the marketing asset from the brand, or do we create ours? It's, of course, it's easier to use theirs, but I think one thing, and now, with social media, the beauty of it is we can test different things and we can see what people react to. And I think it depends on the brand, but we are not in the very luxury, very aspirational brand. We are in a bit more down to earth, so we need to localize because people need to feel this is not just like a model coming from New York, only wearing the clothes in a certain way. They need to see, oh, this is someone that is like me, that looks like me, that have the same job as me, that, and same height as me in a way, and they wear the clothes in a cool way. So they have this, for our customer, it's important to relate, and it's important to localize. We cannot just have this kind of super high end image that are coming from one part of the world. We need to have, our customer feel, oh, I can really relate. So localization is important. And because we are multi-brand, I think, of course, we share the brand can see, and they always say, you're doing a good job, your photos are nice. So for the brand, it's nice also to see the products being worn by different people, so you have the official voice of the brand, but we have a lot of different voice, of the shop. So it's good to localize. But then sometime, especially when I was working in Japan, you're facing a war. They say Japan is different, it needs to be totally different. Japan is special. Japan is not like the rest of the world. And sometimes it's very limiting, because sometimes a good product is a good product. It's a universally good product, or a good idea is a good idea. So sometimes you need to trust that, if this brand made this bag that is so strong, design, so nice, so good marketing, that is sold everywhere in the world, it will sell in Japan, also. So, and maybe it's a way for some people to feel they can, their job will be still valid because they need to, put their personal touch. So we need to localize, but sometimes a good idea is a good idea, and we need to also run with it in every country, It's really we need to find the balance, I always think.
I could probably talk about this for days. I have
I'm sure you faced that for many, many times, right?
It's so nuanced. And I think the dance that you do with being the distributor, and this is who you are and this is what you want, but this is why you should come with us. And this is what I can offer you beyond sales. I can elevate your status as a brand. And I can get you associated with this. And then that kind of moving floor, like you said, you can't go too far out of reach. I mean, if I'm coming in and I want to buy something, and let's be honest, I want my colleagues to be just a little bit jealous of what I'm wearing, it has to be something that is understood and coveted, not too far beyond.
But it's still you. It cannot be someone.
Yeah.
You cannot come and then be like, what happened? It's not you anymore. It needs to be you, but like a little bit better you,
Yes, exactly.
So,
it's a big all shiny with a big hat, fur. All of a sudden they're not going to be jealous. Well, that's for sure. They're just going to be kind of weirded
laughing,
out. Yeah, exactly. Which is not what they want. So and that's always moving, right? And again, I could talk to you so much about how you stay on top of where that perfect spot is with your customers, because you're always wanting the certain customers, but you've also have legacy promises that you've made to current agreements that are in place with other brands that you need to keep that market as well.
But I think that tension makes the job very fun. It's kind of like dancing and finding, okay, that's the right spot. Like we are pushing forward, but we're not losing people. Like it's always very interesting.
What's a risk that you took in the market that you're in that didn't work? Do you have?
That didn't work.
That didn't work. Something that went. Something that went bad. Something that went wrong.
Many stories that things that worked.
Well, maybe you just have the golden touch. Everything you do works all the time.
No. I think for us, what didn't work so well. When I was working with monobrand, I was able to do very, very well in like with Moleskine, Lomography. I was able to build this brand in many different countries, and expand outside of Hong Kong. When I tried to bring Kapok outside of Hong Kong, in Singapore or in Taiwan, it didn't work out, and then because retail, multi-brand retail is very, very in the detail. You receive new products, so you need the training, and then I think, of course, when you talk about Asia, you always talk about Asia. People see Asia, but it's even more different, I think, the countries in Asia than in Europe or America, because the size of the country, the economic development of the country, the taste, the attitude is very different. And even place that looks very similar, like Hong Kong and Singapore, for me as a retailer, it was very, very different, And in Singapore, I think for fashion business, first, the climate is like people are wearing only t-shirt and flip-flops. So we make money selling, coats and jackets. So it's not working. And there were less appetite for newness that we have in Hong Kong. So when we were bringing all these new brands, it was like, they were a little bit more safe in the choice, And so it was difficult. And then running everything, because when you are mono brand, you have like the brand guide, you have the guideline. It's like, it has to be done like that. But for us, multi-brand, it's very freestyle. So how do you translate that in many, many countries, And Taiwan, it was a matter of, running a shop was really quite cheap, the salary, the rents are cheap, but you have a lot of people that are really very comfortable, wealthy, but this kind of comfortable middle class that we have in Hong Kong that can spend well is not there yet in Taiwan. You have the starting position, salary are lower, so our products were a little bit too expensive for the market. So I think that maybe realize, it's so detailed and it's so hands-on as a business that it's better that I refocus on Hong Kong. But it's not totally stupid to go there, because now this market, because the name of Kapok was there, people have seen it, some people, and sometimes you like something, you realize you like something only when you don't have it anymore, So when we closed Kapok in Singapore, people were like, "Oh, we're so sad, why it closed? I love the shop." And I was thinking, if you love it so much, you should have shopped there.
Where were you with your dollars?
When we needed you?
Yeah.
But then now we come in, and then when we target this market with our online business, people know, and Singapore is our number 2 online business. So it's not totally useless, but I think for my kind of business, it was kind of difficult to do a lot of market at the same time. So now our focus is in Hong Kong and web, so the 2 pillar, and the long game, I think is we will at some point, because we will start discussing China, because a lot of people like shopping malls, partner are talking to us about China, but I'm not in a rush, especially now when some of the COVID related situation to calm down. But I think especially, you were talking about Shenzhen and Guangzhou, all these places. It's easy to manage. At some point, it will be easy to manage from here. And I think the markets are ready for what we have to propose. But step by step.
I wanted to ask you that about, as a kind of a wrap up final question about Kapok. It's like, what plans for the future? And, I think, now that Hong Kong is back a part of China, obviously that, bringing the two together got severely interrupted with COVID and things, and that, so it just hasn't gone as quickly or as seamlessly as possible. But I think that, to me, that would be the natural next step. Plus, now you already have the learnings from Taiwan and Singapore. But, you kind of answered that already, and that is something that's on the roadmap, but you're not in a rush. And there's still a lot of other macro environmental things that need to kind of get figured out before it's reasonably a good idea to even start, putting resources towards it. So, okay, so we'll move on from that. And if we don't move on from things, we are never going to get this finished. We're going to be here all day. So I'm
very talkative. So,
me too. And it's just so interesting. I just pick your brain forever. you were the managing director of Lomography Asia Pacific in the early 2000s. So now we're going pre-Kapok. And you oversaw the whole operation in that region. So first of all, can you share some stories about what that experience was like? Because, I mean, I went to Asia for the first time in 2007. I couldn't even imagine in the early 2000s how Wild Wild West or Wild Wild East, as we say, it might have been. So, what was the experience like with being the MD of Lomography Asia Pacific?
It's a business that is really, really fun. They are promoting a new way to at that time it's about analog camera, so a new way to take pictures. So they are one of the key products. The Lomo camera was a Russian-made camera that has a lot of in a way technical flaws, but we're taking really quite amazing picture, very saturated. And then they developed a lot of analog camera that were really interesting, and the whole business was based around community. So creating a community of people that use this camera. They had even online a system when people could upload the camera. So it's called Lomo Home. It's a kind of, I always think it's an ancestor of Instagram in a way. They were really, and the whole strategy was very interesting. They say, we are selling camera and fun camera, but we don't sell in camera store because camera store are boring. We sell in lifestyle store. We sell in cool bookstore and so on. And then we all do the marketing, creating a community. So I was, I worked a few years in banking, but that was the first time going. I always interested in customer, so I was going to end up there anyway. So it was really a good experience because, as you say, it was really, at that time, really wild, because we were just, so I was doing this business with a very good friend, Carlos, who was based in Tokyo, and I was based in Hong Kong, and we cover all of Asia together. And we had to do everything from scratch, finding the customer, finding the warehouse, doing the communication. We set up a system where in every country where this Lomo ambassador, there were people in creative industry that benefited to be associated with the brand for developing the creative business, but helping us in every market. I loved it because it was a very completely alternative way to do business. And I found, I always say, if I were staying in France, my career would have been much more conventional, I think. Because, I went to business school, I would have gone to a bigger company and do a regular job. And some people, they were like, I wanted to be entrepreneur all my life and so on. Not really for me. Of course, I always like shops. So I always thinking I want to have a candy shop or a bookstore or music shop. But I was not this natural born entrepreneur. But you arrive here and everyone is doing it. And if you want to do it, the paperwork is minimal. You can open a company for $1,000 and it's, so you feel like, I want to do it too. And of course, when you start doing it and you're like, I can master my own, progress and I don't have a boss and so on. You're like, that's nice. So I would never have opened Kapok and done all this more entrepreneurial thing if it's not in Hong Kong, because it's a place where people take a lot of risk, So like Lomography was the same, the company was not too big, based in Vienna, in Austria. They took a chance on these two French guys that start everything from scratch. And I think we had a lot of good ideas. We were very energetic. And Asia is a culture where people like to take picture, even before it's like a lot of people take social picture. And I mean, now everyone in the world take a lot of picture all the time. But at that time, it was much more an Asian thing when people take picture of groups and, tourists. So these people have culture of taking a lot of picture. Processing the film was much cheaper than US and Europe. So, and all this made it that within a few, I think 1 or 2 years, the Asia business was 60% of the world business. And I think for a lot of company, it can happen like that. If they take a chance on Asia, they will be able to make it grow very, very fast. But that was very fun and wild, but it was growing quite well. It was a very fun experience, Like now looking back, of course, we are bigger. We still do things in a fun way, but we are also quite organized, and we need to have the both way. When I look at the way we were doing business, we're like, wow, that was quite interesting.
Well, isn't the whole region just more organized now? I mean, I thought that it was there'd be side deals and backroom deals and this and that. And not in all the nefarious sense of things either, but it was just, it was handshake deals. It was, there was a lot of gouache in play. Now it's more organized.
I think so. I think we don't, because I think the economy is bigger, it's more integrated with the rest of the world. So, and I think people got burnt also sometime with these handshake deals when someone did, something not a bit shady, and then they're like, and then this guy, they're smart, everyone is a lot of businessmen are super smart here, and they thought, okay, handshake is nice, but let's protect ourselves a little bit. So of course, I think it's a bit, you can do things a bit more informal than in other country, but I think now, you also have all these contractual things behind. Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's lean in on that for a second. Just talk about kind of business principles. Going back to, those early 2000s and when you were there, the lomography kind of experience, what are the business principles that you learned then that you're still applying today because they still work and they're still relevant? And then what is a business principle or two that you leaned on back then to do the job that you were doing that you no longer need in today's environment?
Wow,
I know, big question.
Big question. One thing that I learned then is especially, I always I grew my company, but it was never a huge company, compare even now Kapok, it's growing, it's getting better, but we are not, they are really big players, like, $1 billion company in the same field. So first is, the very simple one is don't try to play the same game, or you will never succeed, really try to be contrarian and go against what people say you should do like this, and that's important. So, when people talk about retail, say, location is more important. But if I follow this, I would have put my first stores in place where the rent would be crazy. And then I will have so much pressure. I cannot have any freedom and direction to build my brand. So you can be a little bit slower, and like do something more organic. So you choose the first location a bit out of the way, but you build your marketing and people will come to you. And then in the phase 2, the big guys say, hey, you come to my place, to my area, and you say, yes, I want to, but if you want me, I cannot pay your normal deal. You need to give me a better deal, but I'm better than the other shops. So, good for you, good for me. But you need to still at the beginning do a bit the opposite of the common practice, And I think when you enter a new field, now I enter online and I'm not going to be able to frontally compete with Farfetch, with Net-a-Porter. So I need to do things in a different way. I need to go, if 50 people tell me you have to do this way, I have to find the 51 way that is still smart, but otherwise I will never, they have hundreds of people, they have very smart people. So you need to take the risk and do something differently when you're small, or I think you're never going to make it. So I learned that from lomography, but I still do this now. Yeah. So that's the one I still do. Things I don't do is it goes to the way of the organization and the system, I think you need to have a kind of ruler of how much do I run based on system, on prediction, on forecast, on Excel, and how much I run on feeling, And when you're growing, it's too dangerous to run too much on feeling, this data, at the end, we are a customer business, and the customer, because of their choice, because of what they buy, because we need to listen to them, So I think you need to move when you're growing the business. You cannot lose your feeling because it's the personality of the shop, If the shop gives 100% of what the people want, it's boring, but you need to still go back to the data and the system a bit more. You cannot just, it's very, irrational to say, I will grow my business 10 times, 100 times, just trust my feeling. Like, you need to bring the people that really know about, and it's very fun for me to have new set of people that join the company. They're very data systems driven, and mix them with people that are like more kind of intuition, and you need both these people, and sometimes it's super hard to make them work together, but I think that's the key, and I think you cannot just run fully on feelings anymore.
That's right. I could get deep into that as well, but I think you're absolutely right. I mean, especially in the beginning, you're running off gut, you're running off feel, because you don't really maybe have a lot of data, and maybe you don't have a lot of clean data, and then it's hard to kind of analyze and strategize, and then of course execute on the data. So you really are kind of. But then that's what it makes a thing. And then it's hard to give up that gut feel, because it was your taste. It was your.
Oh, you don't give up. You just, you always will bring something where, like, this is a new brand, not tested, but I have this feel it will work. And then, you need to convince. Now I don't decide just by myself. I still run this ID because I want to be challenged, like they say, but sometimes it's, like you say, okay, this one you trust me, and we bring it on, and it will work. And because I know I still have a good strike rate, so I can still do that, But
as the founder of a company, you still have to do that, because that's that the day when the day comes that you're not taking those risks and being okay. Failed experiment, fine, not a big deal. When failure becomes too big to be able to take the risk, that's almost when you might want to almost replace yourself as the leader of the company, and that day comes for all of us.
Time to retire.
I mean, we should be so lucky to build a company that lasts so long that day actually comes.
Yeah. I mean, when I started Kapok, I didn't have this idea. I mean, now, of course, it was still young. It's 15, 16 years, but yeah, of course, that would be great if one day I'm like, okay, I'm on the beach somewhere and the company is still running fine without me.
Yeah, exactly. Let me ask you, try to wrap this up for both you and our listeners, although I'm sure they're like me and want more and more and more. Are there a few brands in the fashion lifestyle space in that area of the world that are doing particularly interesting work today that you could say, yeah, these brands, but then also why they're particularly interesting, or their work is particularly kind of cool on a brand or a content or a growth, however they're doing it.
Yeah.
You're a bit of an expert now, so I'm going to ask you.
So there's this brand called Maison Kitsune. So it's a fashion brand, and they are living, it's a Tokyo and Paris brand. So they have, both, and they really both, and they started, they were more like a music company. They moved into fashion. They moved into now doing cafe, and they really can create, like this really, and most of their customers are in Asia. So like Korea, Japan are the big market, and even their shops in Europe, it's mainly customer from Asia, and they are really kind of finding something that is cute, that is cool, and it's they're always very strong at getting this reaction from they understand the customer in Asia, and they're really building something that, like a lot of brands now, they say we want to be a lifestyle brand, not just a fashion brand, But for them, because they started with music, moved to fashion, do food, they really have this aspirational lifestyle that people react to. So you don't really buy a product. You just want to have that life, You want to listen to that music. You want to just have a coffee there, and they do it very, very well. And I think this full lifestyle brand that are not just a product, but they really create this full lifestyle that people say, I want to live that life. They are the future of brands, and they are doing well. And then I think they understand the customer in Asia super well. So I really, and because it's so difficult to be an independent brand in the fashion world now, when you have this giant monster, but they managed to carve a niche for what they do. So I really like it.
I feel like I discovered this one brand back in 2015. I was in San Diego walking through a place, and I walked into this place. It looked like they had golf clothes, and it was Travis Matthews. And I walked in, and so I said, "Hey, sir, welcome to Travis Matthews. Can I get you a beer?" And I said, that was completely shocking. Like a licensed retail, clothing outlet. And then he said, well, they have these craft beers and this, because it was just kind of that also was just getting out of the rise or whatever it is. He gave you cold beers, like, enjoy, just don't leave the store, and let me know if you need any help. And I thought, I love this store. Like, this is amazing.
Yes.
I'd never had that happen. And their clothes were unique. It wasn't like, it was at the time, it was not stuff anybody else was wearing. Of course, I was, going back to Asia. So it was really cool for that. So, okay, moving on. Let's spend the last part of the discussion, and I've been kind of waiting to get to this, about the future of commerce and retail in Asia. So do you foresee more and more of your customers shifting from brick and mortar to digital commerce? I know that we've touched a bit on this, so I don't we have to go too long, but so more of your customers shifting from brick and mortar to digital.
Yeah. I mean, for us, we've seen, like, before protests and COVID, our online was only 5% of our sales. Now it's between 25 to 30, and I think it will go to 50. But I think I will never go online only, because I think we will lose a lot of this connection with the customer. I think here it will be a bit difficult. I mean, there's some markets like Korea where the online, and China where online is taking a big part. I think it depends where you live, but when you live in a big city where everything is convenient, you can still sometimes shop offline. And as I said, we will still have a lot of free. We will still have a lot of free time, and we will still, when people during all the lockdowns, where before they were like, oh, shopping is annoying, going to restaurants is annoying. But when everyone almost in the world has the same experience, that they're locked down for days and weeks, and they're like, actually, I need to go out. I need to see people. I need to talk to someone. I need to just grab the coffee. I need to sit down at a restaurant. I need to talk to a salesperson in a shop. It's a human need, this connection exists, and people discovered, oh, I thought my life would be better when everything I shop is online and go to my door. But no, it's boring. And I'm a human. I'm social animal. I need that. So it will grow online, because it's convenient, it's faster, it's access to anything in the world. Of course, it will be there. But what if all the restaurants and the shops close? What are people going to do?
No, you have to have it. Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to go in nature, and at some point here in Hong Kong, everything was closed. The only thing we can do is hike. I love hiking, but when you've done hiking every weekend for 3 months, you're like, okay, I want to shop. I want to go. So it's not going to go away. We need that connection.
So you sit quite adeptly at the intersection of commerce and creativity. Okay. Where do you see that junction point moving over the next few years? How is that intersection gonna change?
There's just so much product and content being pumped at people all the time that this saturation will be, so that the one that can, when when you receive so many newsletter and content and product. I think if your product is not a little bit extraordinary, a little bit surprising, a little bit shaking you, like, I've not seen that before, they are the one that can survive. Otherwise, it's a ocean of content, that is similar. So for me, I'm very optimistic because, we move into this where everything was very commerce driven, but I think the survival is through creativity. So I'm finally optimistic, that because also before some companies, they manage to work very well because they're super smart, because they know how to do digital media very well, and it's not about their branding, it's not about their product, it's about they know the game, they know how to play the game, they know how to, it's a very technical game, but they play the game. But now you have more and more people, more and more students, more and more staff that come and they say, oh, this digital only people, I can play their game and I can teach you. So then this set of skills are going to be distributed to everyone. And you cannot differentiate yourself anymore by how well you play the digital marketing game. So it's going to go back to how good is your product, how happy it makes your customer, and how strong is your brand story. So I believe this wave of data commerce is there and everyone will play with these tools. But the one that are going to make it up now are the one that are more creative. I don't know if it's, I think that really, but I also want to think that because it's a better story.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I understand. Like, you worry about like, am I only prophesizing the future that I want versus what I actually think will. Yeah.
No, but I really believe in it. I think I make sense.
Yeah, you do. Okay, well, thank you very, very much. And as we do, I wanted to ask you for, maybe one or two recommendations of guests that you think would be really good guests on the show that our audience would like to hear from.
Yeah, first is someone called Igor Duc. He built a brand called Native Union that is based here in Hong Kong, that is building like tech accessories, like for your phone, cable, case, and so on, and that are really also bringing fashion element to the tech world. And he is selling worldwide now, but really started the company here in Hong Kong. So I think he's a very interesting guy. And it's another French guy called, he's a good friend of mine called, we don't want to invade with too many French, but it's called Florent Grégoire. He was when Louis Vuitton built, so many stores all around China. He was the one driving all the HR to find all the staff that are going to work in all these stores at all levels, from manager level and he's been living in China. Now he's back to France, but he's living in China and Hong Kong all his career. And I think he has really amazing insight about, because when you want to build a business in Asia, you need to find the right people. And that's super challenging, to find so how to attract talent, how to understand talent, and how to understand how to work with people in this environment. So he is fascinating. He has a lot of stories. So I think,
especially for that brand.
Yeah, especially for that brand that is hugely successful, building a business in China. So interesting guy.
Arnault Castel, the founder and CEO of Kapok. I can't thank you enough for being on the show. Thank you. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I hope that...
yes, I had a great time.
Hopefully we get to have you back again some point in the future.
Okay, tell more stories.
Exactly. All right. Thanks very much. For everybody who is watching this video on wherever you stream your videos and been watching Arnault and myself, don't forget we have the audio version only in the podcast form over at Stitcher or Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can go and listen to us there while you use your hands and eyes, potentially for other things like driving or cooking. But if you're not, and you're listening to us out at audio only, and you want to see Arnault and myself and the discussion we had, you can also go to the WPIC YouTube channel and watch us over there. But then for now, I will say adieu, or bid you adieu, as I
au revoir, adieu.
Au revoir, adieu, and goodbye. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you, Todd.
Growing a company is hard. Doing it in a foreign market? Exponentially so. The best piece of advice I can give you is not to do it alone. When you start looking at the Asia Pacific region for further expansion possibilities, and I sincerely hope you do, make sure you choose the right partners to do it with. My good friends at WPIC Marketing and Technologies have almost 20 years of experience helping brands, just like yours, enter China, Japan, and Southeast Asia. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Negotiation, and if you're interested in being a guest or want to connect with me or any of our team, please reach out to us at podcast@wpic.co, and be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.